Hey guys, Ron here. This is video 2. This is the second part of our video series called the Foundations class. And I wanted to stop on and spend a few minutes with you today, taking us to the next step of where we need to be and what we need to think about in beginning to establish our foundation as being a specialist in new construction and really getting your niche started. And the place where we're going to begin, believe it or not, is not to talk about the builders. The place where we're going to begin is to talk about realtors. And because it's really important for us to understand exactly where we are today in order to move forward to the place where we need to be. And in the last class, we basically kind of laid the groundwork of an orientation and talked about where we are going. But today, I want to talk about realtors. Now, when I started as a realtor, way back when, I had come from another very lucrative career, successful career, and I got into real estate and thought to myself, this looked pretty easy. I mean, showing some houses, list some houses, sell some houses. I saw all my friends out there were out going to golf outings and having wine and going to, different types of events that you just look, very social, easy peasy. Right. And so that was kind of my mentality about it when I got into it. But I got to tell you, there were some things that I was not prepared for and had not asked the right questions, or at least I just wasn't told about it. So I put it on myself. But, when I got into real estate, I started to do some transactions. But what I found out is, man, there's a lot of realtors out here. I mean, there's a lot of realtors. In fact, there's more realtors today than there was even back then, a lot more. And in fact, I think about 2 months ago, NAR just came out with a report and said there are more realtors and licensed agents today in the United States than ever before in history. And we're bumping up to like 2 million agents and realtors. And that's crazy, right? I know in some markets, it's not at all unusual for there to be 10, 15, 20,000 realtors. That's nuts. And the problem with it is, though, is that when there's that many, it's very hard for you to stand out and to what I call rise above the noise, or really to find your voice and your uniqueness, which you have to do. We have to find our uniqueness. We have to find our voice in order to be memorable, in order to be thought of, sought after, referred to, and people were sending referrals to. But in a situation where there's really market saturation, what has happened with this is that there's this cottage industry of trainers that are wonderful people and they're good trainers, but they're cranking out licenses 24/7, 365 days a year. Has been going on for a couple decades now. And what has happened is that realtors have become a commodity. And when I talk about a commodity, well, what's that mean? Commodity. Well, an example that I think of as commodity is, in fact, I keep it on my desk someplace just to give me a reminder, but toothpicks. When I go to the store, if I'm going to buy a box of toothpicks, it doesn't matter. There may be 7 different boxes and one's $2.59 and the other one's 59 cents. And when they're all the same, what do you go for? You go for the lowest price option. And what has happened with realtors, not just because there's so many, but also because we all do pretty much the exact same thing as everybody else. I mean, when you get a listing, what most people are doing is they get the listing, they put it on the MLS, they put the sign in the yard, they create a flyer, and maybe it's a glossy flyer, maybe it's a whole book of flyers. It's a small little ebook, and you do an open house. But fundamentally and functionally, it's all the same. And if you don't believe me, talk to the buyers and sellers about it, because they'll tell you, you know, love you, Ron, but you guys all do the same thing. And so that is not a good place to be, because when that situation, it is, where we are unmemorable, we're forgettable, we're not different, and we're interchangeable. And I'll give you an example. There was a couple that I was working with way back when, wanted a new construction home. And I don't know if you've ever had anything like this happen to you, but I had worked with this couple for a long, long time. We'd met with a few different builders. We looked at all the neighborhoods. I'd put in a lot of work with them, trying to help them get exactly what they wanted. Somewhere along the way, maybe 8, maybe 9 months into it, it wasn't every week, but it was consistent, but somewhere along the way, the wife got ill and they needed to take a couple weeks off and just kind of recoup. And she had some doctor appointments and stuff. And I stopped in at the husband's business one day and I said, "Hey, Mike, did you see the listing that I just emailed you? I think we ought to go take a look at it. How's your wife feeling?" And he said, "What happened?" "No, what happened?" He said, "Well, we went out to an open house this Sunday. You know where this is going? You know where this is going, don't you?" He said, we went out to open houses this Sunday, and there's this one open house, there's a new construction, and we walked in and we just really liked the house. And so we just made an offer on it. And the realtor, being hungry and not particularly concerned about ethics, just forgot to ask them, "Oh, by the way, have you worked with another realtor for the last 10 months?" Didn't ask them a thing, just rushed them. It was the end of her open house, took them back to her office, wrote the offer, got an acceptance. She was in, Ron was out. And man, you talk about demeaning and heartbreaking, but that is what happens when we're a commodity. We are interchangeable. They don't see any differentiation between her and me and somebody else. And so it's any realtor will do. And that is what we call a race to the bottom, and the race to the bottom is where we begin to, a lot of realtors start doing wacky things like giving, huge gifts, giving part of their commission away, doing things that it's okay if you do that because you want to, but if you feel like you're compelled to and you have to keep the client, that's not a good thing. And we do more and more of that, even to the point of buying leads and spending so much money on, Zillow leads and other leads where there's hardly no money at the end of the commission by the time we've spent all of our commission. And it's just not a good way to be. So the place where we want to be is not at the bottom. We want to be at the top. And the way that you do this is by specializing. In fact, I'll tell you, I think what we're going to see happen over the next several years is there's going to be a big shakeout. I don't know if it's going to be 5 years, if it's going to be 7 years, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. But there is a shift and there's change that is happening and it's big change. And what we're going to see is there's going to be a shakeout of realtors, and a lot of realtors are going to end up leaving the business because they don't know and they can't make the type of living that they want to make. Well, that's not gonna happen to you, or at least it doesn't need to happen to you, because you can not only survive, but you can thrive, and you don't have to wait for that. You can thrive right now, and the way that you're gonna thrive is to begin to niche down. It's to become different. Now, one of the things I would recommend that you write down, if you don't write down anything else, so this one you should definitely write down. There's an interesting quote from a lady by the name of Sally Hogshead. She wrote a book called Fascinate, and it's a very, very good book. It's a nice read, but one of the things that she said in the book is, write this down, different is better than better. Today and henceforth, different is better than better. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times when realtors are going out and they meet with the builder, they meet with Mr. and Mrs. Jones, they meet with the buyer, they meet with whomever, and they start telling all the reasons why they're better, better, better. And, I'm flying under a red flag or a blue flag or a, black flag or whatever it is. But to the buyer and seller, that really doesn't make a lot of difference to them. So you can't really get their attention or hold their attention by trying to be better. The thing you have to be is different. And the way that you become different and the way you become unique and special is by beginning to niche down and specialize. That's what we're talking about, and that's where we're going. And what you'll find is that almost instantly or very, very soon, when you begin to specialize, you will start to eliminate a lot of your competition. I don't know what the exact number is, but when you begin to really get a hold of new construction and start to specialize and articulate some of the things that we're going to show you and that we're going to be learning over these next several videos and hopefully in our relationship after that is, you're going to be speaking and positioning yourself in a different way where you're changing the buyer and the seller's perception of who you are, where they will no longer see you as being one of 10,000. They'll see you as being one of about five. Now that's a place to compete. And so what begins to happen, and it does not take long, is you begin to eliminate about 95% of your competitors. And the more you begin to drill down and understand and focus on this subset of buyers and sellers, this set of prospects, this audience, the more unique value you're going to provide, and you'll just move further and further ahead. And it's not that difficult, and it doesn't take that long. It takes focus is what it does. But listen, I'm not talking about working harder. I'm not talking about because most of us are working our tails off as much as we can. We love our clients. We love our prospects. We're trying to bless everybody that we're out working with and do wonderful things for them. It's not about working harder. It's about what? It's about, yeah, it's about working smarter. And so what this means is you're going to begin to focus in on a smaller audience. It doesn't mean that's all you need to do, but the quicker you do that, if you can build a business in one niche market, the the quicker you begin to make more and more money, you begin to get more referrals, and everything just starts to operate a lot better and a lot easier for you, and it begins to come to you. But you're going to begin to specialize and provide more value and unique value. And all of a sudden, you will move from about 10,000 competitors to about 5 or 10, maybe 20, but not many. And then, I'll show you how you can be able to stack upon that and add more and more value in that market. But so that's really what we're talking about is niching down and beginning to specialize, not working harder, working smarter, and rise above the noise. So one of the things that surprises a lot of people, though, is that when you do this, you don't need to be a mile ahead. It just does not take that long because most realtors are not doing it. And we'll talk more about that in the next video, but you don't have to be miles ahead. You just have to be a little bit ahead. Think Kentucky Derby. Think horse race. Those horses, when they run around that track and when they finally finish that race, they're generally not a body length ahead. There's not even a head length ahead. It may be just a nose. It may just be a millisecond. And the thing about it is, when you begin to specialize, people begin to perceive you as different, and you just have to be a little bit ahead, not a mile ahead. So, so we're going to specialize. And the last couple things I want to say is on this video is first of all, when you do this, just realize you are changing, and the biggest thing that has to begin to change about this whole scenario is not them, but you. And we have to change our thinking about it. And I want to tell you a story. So, because I think it's a appropriate, you know, Cindy and I, my wife, we at one point were just, we went out and bought a new video camera and we wanted to start shooting videos. And we started this, we're just traveling around central Illinois whenever we had some time off, and we're going to just, out of the way places and little haunts that nobody knew about, and finding people that were interesting and finding things that were unique and interesting and interviewing them. And when I started this, it was so weird because I remember going up to a first one we went to was a roadside stand, out in the middle of nowhere in, backwater Illinois someplace. And there's a little roadside stand, little guy who's selling corn and tomatoes and cucumbers from his stand out in the middle of nowhere. And I walked up with my video camera, and Cindy's like nudging me, my wife's, you know, interview him. And I was just, it's like, what am I? I'm not Steven Spielberg. Who am I to interview somebody? And I didn't give myself permission to do that. And you know what? And he looked pretty nervous about it. I thought, I started thinking, I bet he's got a gun behind there. He's probably going to shoot me if I try to videotape him or interview him or something. And so we didn't. We bought some corn, got the heck out of there, headed on up the road. Next stop we go to, we find this place in some other little small town called Comundi, Illinois. You probably never heard of it. And somebody had a zip line business. And I went in there and I said, I'm going to try it again. And so I tried it again, and I videotaped the zip line. And then, we went to another one, and I think the third one we stopped at was like a Tasty Freeze or some little roadside ice cream stand out in the middle of nowhere. And this time I got up my courage and I went to the person in the booth and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I interview you guys and just find out and like to videotape your ice cream stand?" Well, they loved it. In fact, the owner went, got a banjo, comes out and starts serenading us on his banjo, playing Old Testament worship music on a banjo. And I'm just like, wow, this is nuts. Okay. And the further we got through that day, by the end of the day, people were like, then they thought I was Francis Ford Coppola or Steven Spielberg, because they're come up, oh, interview me next, interview me. And what was fascinating about it was nothing changed about the people that we were interfacing, that we were connecting with. Only thing that changed was me. And that's what has to happen here too, because when you begin to step into new construction, I'm going to show you some things that are powerful, powerful techniques that are going to allow you to begin to speak a different way and articulate the problems in the industry a much different way and talk about the industry. And you accept yourself in this new position, and they will accept you in this new position. So, and here's what you're going to. So, we talked about um, where we've been, which is unmemorable, and unless you're related, or a neighbor down the street or something, how interchangeable, not unique. But here's where we're moving to with all this. As we step into this new area of specialization, this new focus, we begin to learn this stuff. We're talking about a new level of respect. We're talking about being highly, highly valued. Imagine being unique and being viewed as unique and being sought after. Imagine where people are referring to you as, oh, you want to build a new house? This is who you need to talk to because there's only a couple people. And this is the one that I think is going to help you the most. You don't want to be one of 1,000 or 5,000 or 500. You want to be one of just a couple or a few. And so we can do this, but it also means that you're going to be moving into more of a partner type of relationship with people. We'll talk about that in another video, but you really will become a focus specialist. You're going to be more of a consultant and take more of a consultative value and approach to it. But you're going to be growing your business and growing yourself and growing your bank account as well. And our goal is to get it to where you are creating a steady stream of incoming leads to you, where you're not buying the leads, but you're getting the leads because of the value that you're providing out in the marketplace. So repositioning, that's what we're about. And that was the main thing that I wanted to cover with you today. So I'm going to wrap it up here now. In the next video, we're going to start really looking at the builder industry. And we're going to first talk about why new construction, what's important about that. But then we really want to focus in on, okay, what's going on in the industry today and who are these builders? How do we find out about the industry? How do we find out how to get their attention and begin to step into a new kind of relationship with them and new positioning, because that's what it's all about. So guys, thank you so much for taking the time today. Listen, I hope you got some good notes. Go back and refer to this. Remember to click the button on the page here. Um, Join the Facebook group where we can continue the discussion. If you've got any questions, if you got anything you want to discuss, feel free to reach out. We can either discuss it there, or if we need to, we can hop on a phone call as well. And listen, I love you guys. I want the very best for you, and I want to see you just have a wonderful, amazing career. And that's where we're headed. So thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later.